emergence of hard cash currency 2000 years before Christ, notes around the year 800, and checks which arrived in France in 1826 with such resounding success, we have ended up using a wide variety of payment options. Over the last 20 years, digitization has completely changed how we transact and how we see money. The rapid shift to digital payments due to the recent COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the need for banks and other financial institutions to modernize their payments infrastructure as demand rises for contactless payments and automation of accounts payables. Consumers that go to brick and mortar stores are increasingly taking digital first approaches with services like mobile order ahead technologies, like contactless payments, enabled mobile wallets or QR codes, has seen a massive surge in its use. In this session, our panel will discuss the implications of click-to-pay commerce, mobile-centric approach to banking and payments, and will also touch upon many points that have become a part of the payments ecosystem. Now, this panel is moderated by Anand Kumar Bajaj, Founder and Chief Executive Officer of Pay Nearby. Joining Anand on the panel, we have Nath Parmeshwaran, Senior Director, Corporate Affairs, India and South Asia with PayPal. Rohit Katyal, Director Sales, Head of PFSI Investments, Razorpay. And also joining us on this panel from our studio, we have Neeraj Agrawal, Vice President Technology, Tide India, and Purnima Bhujbala, Vice President Risk Management with Wells Fargo. Welcome to FinTech Festival India, Hyderabad Micro Experience, everyone. And with that, I would like to pass the mic to our session moderator, Anand, who will take the discussion forward. Over to you, Anand.
Thank you so much, Amit. And you just announced the world's oldest profession is up for change. Yep, the changeover in the times that we are. You also wrote obituary of this 5 rupee note. You wrote obituary of this debit card and these checkbooks that we used to use, unused, lying on my table here. Well, okay. Thank you so much once again for panelists to join this session. The rapid shift of digital payments due to the recent COVID-19 pandemic has certainly accelerated the need for banks and other financial institutions to modernize their payment infrastructure as demand rises for contactless payments and automation of account payables, etc., 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 everything. Consumers that still go back to the brick and mortar stores are increasingly taking digital first approaches with services like order ahead before going to the store, or technologies like contactless payment, mobile wallet, QR code. All of that has seen a massive surge in its use, which is here to stay, and all be it at the backdrop of falling transactions at the unviable ATMs. I'm just adding nails to the coffin that Amit, you just spoke about. So the unviable ATMs is the story here. So here is a group of people with tremendous sense of humor, and Nath reminded me today morning to reiterate that tremendous sense of humor, which usually is housed with folks with little higher intelligence. And we are here to deliberate the need and the aspects of modernizing payments in the face of digital competition. And we have Purnima, VP Risk Management at Wells Fargo with 19 years experience in business operations, operational risk and compliance in back offices of MNC banks like HSBC, Bank of America, UBS, etc., etc. And in her current role, she leads large global teams supporting various regulatory and remediation efforts for the banks, Also an alum from ISB Hyderabad, certified CISA and ISO 27001. Sounds like chemical fertilizer formula, but yes, that's the need of the hour. And the lead auditor, which with various transformation projects worth $7 million delivered under her leadership. And we have a razor sharp friend, Rohit Katyal from Razorpay. He is an IIFT postgrad with 20 years in banking, the old guard banking and the new fintech experience. He has transitioned as a business leader from traditional banking financial services, I don't know what that was, traditional financial services, to fintech ecosystem and expertise in digital lending and digital payments. That's the way forward and current time. Presently working as director, head of BFSI at Razorpay, where he is responsible for building Razorpay's market share with financial services, broking, investment, etc., etc. He's also been part of unicorns. He has made it actually, but he says he has been part of Paytm, Airtel Payment Bank, Droom, in his fintech career journey, and the journey continues. Yeah, so welcome Rohit and Purnima. We have Neeraj tiding over as Vice President Technology India at Tide, and he heads the Global Development Center GDC in Hyderabad. Nixon may go on mute, please. GDC at Hyderabad, and drives innovation for all its international markets, Tide's international markets, India being one. At Tide, Neeraj has his team, and his team are responsible for development of one platform concept, which is Tide's agile structure and globally unified technology that helps its business platform, financial platform, to be adopted and integrated with local product services partners. Wonderful. A global platform with local partners plugged in to suit the specific needs of companies in each market locally. Wonderful. Welcome, Neeraj. And then we have the Nath Parmeshwaran of our friendly payment neighborhood, PayPal. He is a Senior Director, Corporate Affairs, India and South Asia, and on the board of PayPal India Business. Wonderful. And started as an entrepreneur and has spent more than 2 decades working in payments tech industry, including, this is big one, including helping RBI build the first generation RTGS system. Commendable. And at PayPal, he is responsible for driving public policy advocacy strategy in fintech sector and policy makers and regulators. Okay, with them, wonderful. And Nath is passionate about cross-border digital payment, foreign inward remittance, cross-border e-commerce, because all of the transformative aspects will impact India and India MSME, consumer, Indian diaspora, and to overall India's growth story. And joining them, orchestrating them, is yours sincerely, Anand Kumar Bajaj, founder and CEO of Pay Nearby, a network of 500,000 retail distribution partners, whom we call Digital Pradhan, touching 65% of country's population, who are sachetizing, simplifying, and universalizing the financial services, the high end of technology to the bottom of the pyramid. And one says that the difficult work of technology, which is ever evolving, is kind of done. The network formation is done. The easier part now left is to configure partners on distribution network. Just a blip. Yes, so we have PayPal, Razorpay, Tide, and Wells Fargo. A brief readout, which is with clear and growing adoption of digital engagement modes for consumer, the king. We are here to deliberate and understand what would a PG morphing to payment infrastructure, which is Razorpay, do, or how a cross-border payment can flare up growth of MSME in a balanced environment with control and user experience, and how a new entrant into India see making its mark in the place, which is already overcrowded, with certain things that we take as given and for granted. Let's hear the experts' view and on what it takes to come here and what will they change to further the cause, further the momentum. The commerce platforms, which with their own payment partnerships that Flipkart with multiple payment modules given by players. Here are we to deliberate what Google Pay, Paytm, Amazon will leave behind for players like the ones on the panel today. Let me go directly to the question. Rohit, razor sharp, coming to you first directly, looking beyond payments as strategic opportunities. We are talking about, it's almost a change from only payment gateway model to a larger payment ecosystem approach for Razorpay over years. Two things, if you could tell us, what's your take on fintech evolution and payment as strategic opportunity for growth? Payment, if at all, remains as strategic opportunity for growth. And will SMEs find e-commerce a lucrative option to increase outreach in market? And how do you handle SMEs getting intimidated by tech complexities and cost to enable digital payments? Rohit, please, over to you.
Thank you, Anand. It's a pleasure being here and happy to answer the most interesting one to start with. I mean, before I start, today I'd like to talk about that everyone is eyeing the payments industry in these changing times. To start the conversation, I'd like to quote about the payments industry is now into a multi-decade spiral. I mean, why I'm focusing here is because everything from now onwards in our discussions, you'll find we all are talking about. So coming to the answer straight away, you have been asking about how about the Razorpay's journey from a PG to a full stack has been. Today, the known fact, one can't deny Razorpay is among the fastest growing full stack payment solutions company in India. And this is all which started with an opportunity of payment gateway catering to the startups ecosystem. This all started, the Razorpay's journey started in year 2014. The idea here was to solve the payments. And this was when most of the payment companies were focusing on large enterprises businesses. And we started focusing towards the startup ecosystem. We quickly became the de facto payment gateway company for the startup ecosystem. And few of these startups now, if you ask, I mean, have become large over period. I mean, including us. So never less to say about that. Over the years, Razorpay's vision has got evolved, and when I say the evolution here, it all started later in the year, financial year 2017-18. We launched the 2.0 version, Razorpay's 2.0 version that involved converged payment solutions. And this included products like smart invoicing, automated bank transfers. And if you ask me, I mean, today, 60% of our businesses using Razorpay are using more than one product. I mean, just to highlight here. In a single statement about this answer, I like to say that now we are aiming to power the entire financial ecosystem, no longer a payment gateway. We launched Razorpay X and Razorpay Capital recently, last couple of years. Razorpay X, which is a new banking platform that helps our merchant businesses to manage the entire current account or the business banking through Razorpay. I mean, the idea is how we can cover the most core financial part of any business, which is the core banking side. On the other hand, Razorpay Capital also got in the ecosystem approach, and we help businesses, especially SMEs, get loans quick and very lesser tax. Where we have created a very secured marketplace, if I talk about, and we control the entire process. The idea is, again, how we can use the transactional data or the alternate data to help these businesses for their short-term working capital requirements. And even, in fact, alongside, we are also powering their payments and managing the payments. So payments, payouts, lending, and the core banking, all is there in, we say, as a full stack, we are focusing on. You ask me, I mean, currently, I mean, it's more than 1 million SME merchants in many shapes and forms. With various product lines, I can say, having many use cases and across many verticals, right? We have come together to embrace the digital and fintech ecosystem for them. I'm particularly talking about the SME and MSME, the small businesses to talk about here. A focus here is that as an ecosystem player, we ensure that we provide these disruptors the right means to focus on their problems. We want to bundle everything into a single offering. That's our approach on that front. Secondly, the other thing which you asked about the e-commerce as a lucrative option to increase outreach in the market was a second subset of the question. Interestingly, I would like to highlight about the trend here that most of these SMEs or small businesses we call, which are getting onboarded on Razorpay these days, are the first time users of digital payments. And they are typically contributing towards the growth story of the GMV through the Razorpay ecosystem itself, for themselves as well as for the entire SME market. A few reservations where we typically, when we went and we were also trying to understand the market, which we have seen that an entrepreneur running a small business have been facing questions being asked from them like, they are very small in nature. I mean, they are very small businesses. They don't have a website. How can they collect digital payments? is there a way to send invoice or collect money online without a website? Having payment features the way big companies have without knowing the technology. The bigger hindrance here is technology, knowing about the technology, the SMEs, entrepreneurs, and then saving cost on top of it. So all these pointers to mention here today,
Yes.
importantly, the persona of a SME digital entrepreneur, I feel, has completely changed. Uh,
Wonderful.
with the power of no-code products which Razorpay offers, I'll emphasize here, more than half of our merchants are on the no-code products today, right?
Wonderful.
Like to talk about payment links, payment page, payments button, where there is no hassle of a deep tech integrations, and SME small businesses can start them in a literally using them in a literally 5 minutes. Under 5 minutes, they can start these products.
Fantastic. So that takes care of the apprehensions at all. And while you try to become a bank soon with lending, let me ask quickly Neeraj at Tide, where everyone else is doing everything else, is saying that they will make money by doing credit. Even we just now said that. What is Tide going to do in India, and how do you see credit as a starting product? Neeraj?
Good morning, everyone. So Tide is one of the top fintech company in UK. Is a business and financial platform for the MSME, and we actually like our goal is to save time and money for the small and medium scale merchants. And so what we do is we provide the business current account with the host of services which they can integrate as the he said with no code integration for the merchants. And we already are quite big in UK. We have a 6% market share in UK, and soon we are going to come to India in like say December January time frame. And what we are doing is not building the every product from scratch. We are going to build an ecosystem in which fintechs will be able to onboard Tide and integrate with Tide, right? Very easily, seamlessly, and so it will going to act as a marketplace for all these like services that financial and banking needs of the MSME, like lending, invoicing, accounting, tax filing, legal help, or whatever, right? It's going to be a platform which is going to work with the local players in the country we are going to launch in. And India is the first country outside UK where we are planning to have our product launched.
Wonderful.
So that's it.
Wonderful. So let me ask Nath, while you are coming to India, Neeraj, Nath is already here. PayPal as a global player focused on cross-border payments in India. Nath, how do you see this space as strategic opportunity for growth and major developments or shifts in the Indian ecosystem? What's your take, Nath?
Thanks, Anand. Good morning, everyone. Anand, for us, India, we have been around for 10 years. Number two, it continues to be an extremely strategic and long-term market for us. I would say we are very blessed to be working on three areas here, okay, with the focus on cross-border. Okay, the first one is, our mission to actually take Indian MSMEs and new age businesses to help them export goods and services made in India to the world, okay, using digital trade as a new channel, okay, what we call as the new export economy in India, okay. Number two is that how do we serve the Indian diaspora, okay, which is equally invested, if not more, to the development and growth of India, and help them with next generation remittance services, okay. And the third aspect that we are focused on is that the new age businesses, how can we take Indian local new age business global, okay, in line with their aspiration. Number two, even more exciting for us is the prospects of being able to take Indian payment innovations global, okay.
Wonderful.
So if you may allow me to just expand quickly on these three aspects, okay. On the first one of taking Indian MSMEs and SMEs global, okay, what are we saying is here is an Indian MSME, an Indian startup, or a woman entrepreneur or a freelancer, right, they have goods and services to be sold to a global consumer. Payments, everybody can do it. But with our global platform, what we really offer them is access to 200 markets, 100 plus currencies. Most important, any merchant requires is access to consumers. We provide them 400 million plus users in these 200 markets who trust PayPal and part with their payment to people who are sitting far away in India and trust them to deliver the goods and services. Okay, so that's the power of the two-sided network we bring. And Anand, all of us know that liquidity becomes very important for the small business, sometimes more important even than profit, right? What we endeavor to do is the money that we collect from the overseas consumers is given next day to the Indian merchant in its bank account. Okay, so these businesses can then pay their contractors, employees, generate the goods and services and export. Okay, and it's a fascinating area for all of us to focus and grow this ecosystem. We are just scratching the surface here. Okay.
Wonderful.
The second very quick aspect of the Indian diaspora, we have a service called Zoom. Okay, it is not the Zoom platform that we are using. It is XOOM. It stands for speed. What it does is allows the Indian diaspora in 30 plus countries to use their mobile phone and in a matter of seconds, okay, have the money transferred to their loved ones in India with positive confirmation for the sender and the receiver. And I have to acknowledge the support of RBI here by where they have made RTGS and NEFT 24/7, and which has actually helped the Indian diaspora to send these payments regularly. See, the numbers speak for itself.
Yes.
The audience will love to note that in spite of the pandemic, okay, India has maintained its track record as the #1 destination of foreign inward remittances. Okay, that is about $83 billion, even at the height of the pandemic. So you can see the resilience, and if you provide the right tools, the remittances coming in, which have a huge benefit on the economy. The last one is about the payment innovation. You will be very happy to note that we have taken India's most advanced, faster payments product, UPI. Okay, there is no parallel in the world.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we have taken the same. What we said is, okay, Indians are using the convenience and power of UPI. We have taken that and made it available to our Indian diaspora on our Zoom service. So the Indian diaspora, like his Indian counterparts, is now able to use UPI also to send payments back to his loved ones in India. Okay, they don't need to remember SWIFT code, bank code, nothing. Just the UPI handle of the beneficiary and the payment comes in. So what I want to say, Anand, is before I give back to you, is that this is the kind of fascinating ecosystem we are very blessed to work with. We work with a lot of ecosystem partners. Razorpay is a major player for us in a host of other banks. Okay, we feel partnership is the way forward, and we can grow this ecosystem. And here the silent enabler has been the government. Okay,
Absolutely.
Government, NPCI, RBI. Okay, very quietly I put in various frameworks in place where it provides this tailwind to both export remittances, export payments, and personal remittances. And let me also tell you, the world has recognized this. Just 3 days back, the UN launched a survey, the results of a survey which is called Digital Trade Index. India jumped 92%.
Wow.
Okay, in its ranking.
Massive.
On enabling trade facilitation for SMEs. So with that, Anand, I'll hand it back to you.
Wonderful. So the women entrepreneurs would love you, the freelancers would love you, so would NPCI and the loved ones of the loved ones who remit money into India through Zoom. That's PayPal doing tremendous work there. Purnima, over to you at Wells Fargo. The startups in fintech space, you said, need to run a lean operating model with very low initial investments, allowing them to test, try, and pay as they grow. How should Paytech guarantee security of their financial services, protect privacy of customers, and comply with regulations on one hand? And how can we achieve control effectiveness and sustainable compliance and demonstrate consistent capability to maintain strong operations? I know it's the toughest of the question, but you asked for it for the role that you carry. Purnima, please help us understand this.
Thank you, Anand. I will first begin with, really interesting listening to the Razorpay, PayPal, and in fact, Tide as well. So one of the things that I heard is, getting the products to the customer within minutes, make that products available with a low code or a low code solution. Now, I think there's an immense pressure on the fintech companies or the paytech companies to to deliver the innovation in a very less time. At the same time, you also have pressure on cost. But no, from the security or the compliance, no, the role of a regulator is what? I mean, as a consumer, I want my data and my services to be protected. So is the paytech companies or the fintech company thinking about while I'm meeting the pressure of cost, while I'm also need to time to market cycle times have to be reduced, how do I ensure that I secure the customer's data and the financial services? I think some of it you can think about is also on the secured applications, making sure your codes are secured. You can also think about your secured APIs. You have secured DevOps, making sure that before you release a particular code into the system, you have enough controls and checks that is done. So these are a couple of things that some of the best practices and also from the if you look at the cloud best practices, right? So these are your cloud best practices. You have to make sure that you pay attention to those controls. Now, this is more on the application and technology standpoint. The other aspect is also to look at your business operations, more from the people and processes, looking at your controls environment. So most of the large banks or the large MNC bank, they build governance in terms about, what are the data controls that are that have to be put in place. Today it is not about, most of the banks, right? It's like a wash, rinse, and repeat. So today, the process is, you do an annual compliance assessment, risk assessments. So can I move away from the annual monitoring to more proactive monitoring? Can I build a control mechanism, design a control, monitor that, and then also make sure that the people are accountable to ensure that the controls have been executed? So these are some of the aspects that you can think about to make sure that the end customer is happy and their data, their information is also secured. So that's pretty much from my end, Anand. Back to you.
That's wonderful. Actually, Purnima, it's like the full moon showing light to all of us. That's what your name is. And you're a conscious keeper. Let me tell you, you're not making motherhood statements, but you are showing guidance to the running horses and how data control. But what you said is wonderful. Wash, rinse, and repeat. That's a wonderful perspective that women can bring to a panel discussion like this. It's fantastic. It applies in banking. It applies in payments. Repeat certain things which are hygiene and very important. On that note, the Pay Nearby House view here is about that payments in rural economy has become compulsion beyond fashion. Yeah, the fashion of pulling out the phone and scanning and showing off, it has now become a mainstream, and that's the good news. Just that few broken pieces will help us, mending the few broken pieces will help us ramp up India payment stack easily. Balancing the user experience with convenience, with controls that Purnima said is a job well done. And with help of NPCI and regulator, most progressive regulator in the world, the Reserve Bank of India, the payment modules in India has become the poster boy of payments. And Nath, thank you so much for highlighting and taking it to the globe while we are stretching it still in our backyard and taking to Bharat. It's a great stretch of imagination and payment services. Razorpay, Rohit, if I may want to talk to you about the evolution of banking payments to mobile-centric approach and ask you that in the changing times today, what's your view on the approach adopted by payments and banking providers offering UPI and mobile wallets? It's a very simple to know question, but complicated when you say banking and payment providers. These are two different platforms actually now with the numbers that you are seeing. So, Rohit, how do you see this amidst the UPI and mobile wallet providers?
Interesting one. To answer this, while all these days when the world is suffering from the pandemic, actually what you said on one side, phone is a fashion, but in this context, I say people are actually afraid of touching the cash or physical currency. This has been resulting in the surge in the mobile payments. We are talking about the mobile-centric approach now. There is a direct correlation between the customer and the payment methods coming on because of it. The payments industry has reinvented in accordance with the popular term customer-centric. which I actually call it's a mobile first approach now. All right. Here now, since you spoke about UPI, you asked about UPI and mobile wallets. Here I'll more emphasize my views on the UPI payments. Uh, Over time, UPI is becoming an highly dependent instrument. It is an instrument of the future, if you talk about. And I strongly feel that this is an instrument which is built for a mobile-first country like India, an emerging country like us, and now contributing in the changing the entire financial ecosystem the way it operates here. We Razorpay were also among the first one on the business side to ride the UPI wave. We partnered with NPCI at a very initial level. If you look at the merchant acceptance of UPI, we were the first payment gateway to launch UPI acceptance, and today most of the large merchants exclusively accept UPI through us, be it large merchants like Zomato or Oyo, or you talk about categories like IRCTC, Airtel, BFI merchants are also there, Zerodha, StockShare, fun to talk about. Right? In the mobile-based approach, roughly 20% of the businesses use mobile methods to operate the mobile functionality through Razorpay. I'm just putting some sort of numbers around it, like sending payment links to the customers on fly, download the reports, and do a bunch of stuff out here. Even the customers are opting for mobile payments with the growth of UPI in last few years, where we see 40% of the payments are happening via UPI now, and most of it is coming through mobile traffic itself. Again, another point to emphasize. On the other side, you spoke about mobile wallets. Our way of doing mobile wallets, we ensured that our merchants don't have to tie up individually with each of these wallets, and our merchants are able to accept the wallets because of their B2C demand or the incentivization or any other use case. Hence, we tied up and aggregated with all the large wallets in the country. Now, coming to your sub-question piece, when I talk about the road ahead between mobile wallet and UPI, UPI has edged and rapidly scaled up, right? Whereas, the wallet use case in India is clearly stuck up between the ongoing KYC and UPI. Both of them, I believe, together have been the reason of wallet decline over period here. And what I'm talking is earlier, if you see in the mobile first approach, the biggest fundamental reason of us, everybody using wallets were the ease of onboarding it, which went away with the KYC requirements later on when asked. And on the other hand, there was an ease of transaction with wallets also, which went away again with the UPI usage. Now the bigger question today is, what is the need of wallet in Indian ecosystem? With the KYC adhered, UPI in place, the use case I firmly believe has become minuscule now. I think that's my views. Over to you, Anand.
Wonderful. When we say that if winter is here, spring is not far behind, wait and watch the coming back of the wallet with the recent dispensations given by the regulator on 2 lakh limit, cash out and interoperability. But you made a very interesting point that fear has taken over the greed. No more cashback is dragging people into using digital, and just the fear of touching cash with mobile first approach is certainly coming up. And beyond MDR discounting, Razorpay has been able to bring in the on-the-fly digital acceptance takeoff. On that note, Purnima, you were talking about hearing of UPI in foreign markets. Would you want to talk about that? We want to hear a little bit of swag of the UPI in foreign from you. A and B, how do you make neem not taste as bitter and make people to love it? Meaning thereby that how do you balance the regulation, compliance, convenience to create a better future? So if you could quickly touch upon that.
Yes, absolutely. I think UPI is the biggest opportunity that you can see in the US markets. I don't think so this innovation is existing in US.
NPCI is listening. Wonderful.
There are discussions, there are certain talks on implementing this in US markets as well. But if you look at US, there are close to 78 million population are millennials. Right, so you will be surprised in U.S. markets. Still, there is cash transactions. There are cashier's check as a transactions. In fact, I was listening. I was reading one of the research paper, and I actually saw that a dollar transaction, a $10 transaction, mostly happens in terms of cash. 50% happens in terms of cash. So what it means is that most of the population is still not mobile first. The mobile adoption is still not highly penetrated in US markets. They are mostly into internet adoption. So that is one of the opportunity area. So I think, if as you increase the mobile adoption, I think there is an opportunity room for UPI to be introduced in the US markets. Now I'm going to this. I'll go to the second part of your questions. How do you make sure that your payments regulators and compliance can make the future better? But generally, it's the other way around. It's almost the banks and the financial fintechs crib about. How do I ensure that I comply with the requirements? I have cost related to it. But I was thinking if we can bring in some kind of a middle ground and create a collaborative framework. Now, we just spoke about AML, KYC, correct? So can we think about designing a product right up front and also include your AML or KYC standards in that? I think one of the biggest opportunity is it's the regulation itself. Every bank interprets regulation as they understand. So if you look at the AML program in banks, they have two different programs. They are not standard. So they have their own set process policies that have been set up for an AML. So can we standardize a global program? And if that can be introduced into your product designing upfront, and then you will lower the cost in terms of not complying to the requirements and so on and so forth. I think it's more about what I'm trying to summarize is be proactive, bring in more collaborative framework which can help the consumers as well as the fintech companies.
Wonderful, wonderful, Purnima. And not complying is not a choice, actually. And digital grows best at the bedrock of compliance. And that's a fantastic thought. I see Simran is still asking us, how are we taking this into the digital rural Bharat? And we have Wagmare, who is wanting to do some work in equity, but we will come to that later. Purvi is already loving you, Nath, for the cross-border remittance speed that you have brought in the comment box. So thank you so much for bringing that out, Purvi. The brief pioneer by house view here of the mobile-centric approach is that India is leapfrogging. 2010, when we attempted IMPS first time on a Saturday, people hugged us in the field that you are either joking or you are God. You have created magic. Because when I sent money to my village, it only went on Monday if I sent on Saturday because of NEFT. Thanks to progressive step by a regulator, Reserve Bank of India, 24/7 RTGS has been brought in now, which is large payment. IMPS has already tided over and changed the India landscape. The leapfrogging phenomena in India, instead of TV, people have gone to mobile. Instead of watching content, Netflix, the battery life of mobile is sustaining and helping do much more there. And payments, like I said, the notes have evaporated, so have checkbooks. And my wife said no in the morning to pull out the old checkbook from the closet. And my son said, "What is it, Dad? I had never seen one." So I beautifully showed it to him. On that note, Neeraj, let's look at the emerging market opportunities that you are trying to get into. How Tide is going to digitize SME in India, and what's the different strategy to enter India market? Everyone has used the four-letter word, not bank, loan in some other form, LON, credit, 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 everyone. Thankfully, it is now no more four-letter word. Beyond that, how Tide will do a different strategy to enter India? And I'll come to you, Nath, after that.
So what Tide is going to do, like first let me tell you the implication of mobile banking or the digital payments, right? The thing is, like earlier, a bank were very much aware of the rich and the middle class, but they had no blind sighted to the poor or the lower middle class people who were doing the cash transactions. So now we have a credit history or the like a transaction history of 30 to 40% more people in India, right? And what Tide is going to do is design the tailor-made products, right, which the big banks have ignored for a long time, and only the government has been pushing banks to say Jan Dhan bank account yojana and on so many like right? So what we are going to do is design the tailor-made products for the people who have been long ignored, right? And we believe that there is a wealth at the bottom of the pyramid, right? Though the unit economics is low, volume is very, very large, right? And we are going to help MSME to actually help them run their business, right? Help them grow their business, save them time, save them hassles of like say accounting or the tax filing or any other help that they would need, right? And I know there's already an ecosystem in India for most of the things I talked about. So we are going to pull or partner with most of them, or the and bring together a platform where small and medium scale businesses will get whatever is best for them, right? They will choose. They'll have an option to choose what's the best interest rate I can get, what's the best terms of loan I can get, right? Not just one option, but so many options.
Wonderful. So stitching what is torn badly, or the lower middle class, what it is, I don't know, but lower digital class that will be in the times ahead, the segmentation will change. And what big banks have missed, you intend to do a big bang about it by configuring Sare Gama Pada Nisa or Do Re Mi without inventing those syllables and playing to the gallery in what one wants. And long live C.K. Prahlad for invoking the bottom of pyramid. Thank you so much, Tide, Neeraj. And Nath, post-pandemic, the world has changed forever, and so has the consumer and merchant behavior. And it's evolving, and it's never going to go back. So from your perspective, especially in cross-border, what are you seeing as new and emerging market opportunity for digital payments industry and the ecosystem that it serves?
Anand, yeah. So, I think there are two great opportunities before us, that we are looking at. It is in line with, how do we take new age businesses from India and make them go global, right? So, for example, during the pandemic, we saw, great growth in edutech and wellness. Okay, for example, two merchants, new age businesses who have really made a mark is number one, Whitehead Junior as an example, or Great Learning, right? Not only serving the domestic students and the population, but now they are offering their services to the global audience, okay? So we help them with all the payment solutions and make them, go to the market. Sometimes they want to set up local hubs, so we provide them the full suite of products, okay? So while that was done, and that emerging opportunity that we are looking at is SaaS, okay? Software as a service. NASSCOM just 4 days back launched a report saying that by 2025, Indian SaaS companies have an opportunity of almost $75 billion in revenue. Okay, so it's a huge opportunity, and it's both B2B SaaS and B2C SaaS. Okay, so now what we are looking at is, whether from India or they want to operate from different hubs around the world, how can we partner and provide a full suite of products for them to succeed in tapping into consumers, small businesses, get their payments, and all their other associated requirements when they talk about international, right? Without compromising on privacy and security. Now, quickly switching on to just one more aspect, the second opportunity, again, it will resonate with India. Okay, see, Indian merchants want to always sell higher ticket items, right? More profitable, more money there. Okay, there what we are trying to do is that we have launched buy now, pay later product for our global consumers. So we are trying to say that, okay, these merchants that, you accept buy now later product, the chances of you selling a higher ticket item is very huge. So we are looking at SaaS from India, okay, the community, and on the other side, link our paying for buy now, pay later product to Indian merchants to help them sell higher ticket items.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Nath. And the BNPL has become another 4-letter word from the khata, which used to be in the red chokri book of the Kirana Dukan. It always existed, but it's become the buzzword now. And SaaS sounds like the gold rush, everyone trying to sell chisel and shovel, no one willing to go and do the digging on the ground for the gold. And yes, edutech, wellness guys take a great advantage, and you're taking it to the globe. So while you are taking to outside the border, Purnima, from cross border to within border, how do you see this going to villages in Bharat? And with low connectivity, tech aversion, literacy, etc., 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 and not missing the segment which is oblivious to the concerns of privacy. How do you see this going to the Bharat?
Yeah. So Anand, I'll bring in two perspectives. I think you spoke about the technology, infrastructure, internet, mobile. I will not speak about it. I think it's known that those are the opportunities area that has to be improved in the villages, right, in the tier two or tier three. But the two key elements, in spite of providing the technology infrastructure, how would you change a consumer behavior? And other thing is also on the education, right? The language. So these are the two important aspects in my mind that you have to drive, and it will take a lot of time to make that consumer shift. And also, how do you build trust between the consumers? So if you look at most of the consumer, I think in 2016, the demonetization has actually forced people to adopt digital cash. So there are a lot of kirana store or shopper or storekeepers who were forced to adopt a POS, right, point of sale machines. But after some time, they again moved away from digital to the cash. So in fact, I think in 2018, the RBI report actually said there's a decline of 20% in the digital cash in the villages, right? So. I think the 3 points is giving the infrastructure, getting the mobile penetration into the villages, the biggest thing, and also the behavior, language, and building the trust. So these are the key.
Good you covered the language part. Someone in the audience has asked about the language part, and glad that, for example, Pay Nearby has its app in 10 languages, and it's wonderfully used. It's a great user sentiment respect. People know that someone sitting in Mumbai is thinking about them. Well, you also said interestingly that beyond discounts, the consumer is waking up to the advantages of digital cash. And Pay Nearby house view here is that I recollect my fond days at the bank. Madhavi, my boss, used to say that add value where no one else is willing to. Yeah, the 8% digital savvy greedy segment, which is over digitized with multiple of the wallets and net banking, credit card, debit card, there's a lot more to do for the 92% of India. And having deployed a railroad by Pay Nearby digital Pradhan partners, which reaches 65% of the population today, we are now looking forward to partnerships all here on the table as well to take API by API sequenced to the last mile. And that's a great way to take India to the Bharat, to the forward markets, so to say, from the courtyard to the living room. Yeah, Angan se drawing room mein le jaane ke liye. We will talk about it. Quickly, Nath, back to you. I would like to bring the role of the banks. And Razorpay, you missed out even talking about the banks, so I know what you are talking. So hearing that, I'm tempted to talk about the role of banks in digital and connected economy. Nath, everyone is writing the obituary, you say, and of the traditional banks, as we know, fintechs disrupting banks. From PayPal perspective, do you see them as partners or competitors? I know you will say obviously partners, but I want to hear it from you. And with the RBI allowing direct connect of the non-banks into the payment ecosystem, I'm sure you see their role in the new digital connected economy, where you are saying that the future of banking is equal to back office of fintech if they don't change API by API now. So what are you saying and proposing that listener should listen to you today?
Anand, see role of banks, right? So let me first start with by saying, see, banks are not going to go away. Okay, it's just that the role and the avatar that they play today in the ecosystem will undergo a change. Okay, to some extent. Okay, now let me give you an example. Okay, partnership is the way forward, not just with banks. Okay, but with the entire ecosystem player. Just to give an illustration, and as PayPal, okay, what we are seeing happening is, okay, fintechs like us or Razorpay or all of us, we are very good at user experience, knowing the underserved requirements and problems of the user and solving for them, bringing products very quickly, mobile first, online. Okay, while we focus on that, we have taken the kind of, lead in owning the customer and the merchant with experience, service, everything bundled in. The role of bank becomes a back-end partner, equally very important, in terms of being able to disperse across multiple countries, okay? Integration to local clearing systems, regulatory reporting into various systems in a country, right? So they are very good at it. Their presence has been there for years. So why should we recreate? Okay, so here is a win-win that we do something where we are good at. Areas where they are very good at is, we work with them, right? And banks have evolved, as you know, Anand and Purnima will appreciate that they have evolved into very mature trade and treasury functions, right? Where the entire focus is to partner with, fintechs like us and develop products not only for their customers but also to our customers. So I don't see that role going away. Just to give a very quick example, for the cross-border remittance product that we talked about, in few seconds we are bringing in payments. We have multiple bank partners in India. Okay.
Absolutely.
Number two, even on our MSME remittances, we have a bank partner. Not only that, expand that into non-banks. Okay. Razorpay, I again say, great partnership. They've got a huge merchant base which wants to export. We integrate and offer PayPal, right? It's a win-win. We have launched a product for our exporters finance. Okay, they need timely small value finance. We work with an Indian fintech called FlexiLoan. Okay, so there is room for everyone in the domestic market. Like you rightly said, hardly 5% is electronic in spite of all the progress. 95%. Okay, the same issue is 98% of the international market is open. So all of us, there is enough space to operate and collaboratively bring to the table.
Absolutely, we are, because banks are. So they do what they do best, and we configure the market and bring it to them. There is a higher pedestal of supervisory, regulatory, treasury management role. And while you push down Razorpay saying they are non-bank, wait and watch till they become a bank sooner or later. Purnima, consumer wants security, you said, but not at the expense of utility. So they want to do the fashion without being obscene. So how can pay tech companies win their hearts and quote unquote, other than discounts? How can pay tech companies win their hearts without discounts? Is there a formula like operational agility plus accountability to the power compliance minus impact to user experience is equal to Eureka moment? Do you have a comment there?
Yes, absolutely. I think operational agility is something which is common across banks, fintech, paytech, or for that matter, any industry. At the face of it, how would you shift your business models, right? So I think one of the example that you can look at is, I can think about the rental models today. A buyer and a seller today. So how can payments, be used in this particular model? So let's take a furniture, right? A seller wants to sell a furniture. A buyer wants to buy a furniture. But how would you ensure that the asset is insured and there's no damage? And how would you ensure that once I deliver the furniture, will I get the money back? So can the payment service providers act as a due diligence platform for both sellers and buyers? Today, you don't do due diligence for the buyers; you do the due diligence for the sellers. Okay, so can paytech companies think about bringing a value proposition in such model? The other thing is also on APIs, right? So we use a lot of open APIs. That is in terms of reducing the cycle times by automating the workflows. That will also help ensure that the customer experience is seamless, improved and frictionless.
Yes.
And in turn, what you get is the customer lifetime value on your platform. Okay.
Till the other guy comes with discount and offers more soon. But you made a very interesting point of know your buyer beyond know your customer. It's a great way forward. And ops agility is given. There was a joke that if you want a good price for your furniture, sell it on OLX and pay by Paytm. So you will get win-win on both the sides. But yes, doing a due diligence of buyer is imperative. Neeraj, what support would you need in India? And we as host are asking you this, that what support would you need in India to help us evolve to the next orbit? Tide coming to India is welcome. And how can we, Pay Nearby, PayPal, Razorpay, Wells Fargo, and others, all the listeners here, how can we all help you? What are the things that you want? And followed by, for all others, what are the 2 key trends and drivers that we are seeing? Neeraj, followed by Nath, Purnima, and then my friend Rohit.
Tide is going to partner with multiple fintechs, right? It has already partnered with some of the banks like RBL. RBL is our current account provider, and
Wonderful.
and
Partners Ka Bank, as they are known. Partners Ka Bank, that's the tagline.
right, and we are going to partner with multiple fintechs, multiple service providers, and we want to bring together the customers and the fintech providers on a single platform, right? To have them exposure, right? Because big players is small. There are like a lot of small players also. So we want to bring all of them together, create a marketplace where they can buy services and get best out of them. Yeah.
Good. Love to look forward and help you. It's like saying, "Anna, tum sangharsh karo, hum to kar hi rahe hain." So all the fintechs are already doing what you are going to help them do better. So on that note, Nath, what are the 2 trends and drivers? 2, just 1, 2.
Global में ना Anand, I would say crypto global, just underline this. In the global trend is crypto, CBDC, and BNPL for us. Okay, as I am seeing as big trends. Okay.
Okay.
Then when you come to back to India, closer home, I see the next shift or paradigm explosion could happen as a combination of mobile first, open APIs, and 2 initiatives to worth note: account aggregator initiative driven by Sahamati and under RBI's license to the account aggregator. 4th is the most recent one, open network for e-commerce, ONDC, जो अभी
ONDC and OCEN. Both, yes.
These, if you combine the power of a consent-driven architecture, mobile first, open API, this can unleash the next revolution.
True. Rohit, Purnima?
Purnima, you can.
Thank you. And I'll only take one trend that might be coming. So one card for all payments, Anand, and this is all for the hybrid customers.
With 13 products per customer at Wells Fargo, how will you do with one card alone? But yes, that's a great
Yeah,
point.
I'm not talking about the Wells
One card,
Fargo.
one
So
nation.
this would be something that I would have seen this as a general, have one card for all, for the hybrid customer who have business as well, personal as well, with single identification.
Yes.
Can I have one card, all payments?
Fantastic. That's a powerful idea. Rohit?
As I quoted, I mean, we cater to more than 1 million plus merchants in many shapes and forms. I'll restrict my findings here to the business analytics more. I mean, firstly, there has been a great recovery post-COVID, which we have seen in the digital payments market, a V-shaped one. Even businesses like travel and hospitality, which we felt are going to get impacted a lot, have positively been picked back after the second wave. Second clear trend is the other clear growth driver is about the MSME and SME, which are trying out many innovative things. Have seen the credit demand within the MSME has shot up.
Okay, so anything that you speak after this, no one would be listening to it because the buzzer is gone and Amit has already sent a reminder. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being on this call and sharing your views with the global audience.
Where there is life, there is hope, there is meaning. But life has its downs as much as its ups. Life is about challenges. Life is about opportunities. Time for joy, time for celebration, and time to introspect. Thankfully, in every one of life's moments, and even beyond life itself, there's LIC. Where there is life, there's always LIC. Zindagi ke saath bhi, zindagi ke baad bhi.